Episode of Separation Nation, and we've got a special guest today, Robbie Hilton, Robert John Hilton from Bacon County, big city of Alma, Georgia, blueberry capital of the world, and my hometown as well. So we know we're dealing with good people today. And so anyway, Robbie has been with our insurance agency, a marketing group, for how many years now? 100?
Seems like that. Probably 7 years.
So 7 years, and
the end of 14, what? 2014 in
August 2014. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
And has won several conventions, been all over the world with insurance, and has led our company many years as the top gun. And Robbie's got a real unique story, not just his life, but his career and the things, adversity he's fought, throughout his career. And a lot of changes, and but he's been one of those that has been able to adapt and overcome. And when I look at you, Robbie, I think of somebody who has had to adapt and overcome to a lot of things. And you can talk about that, but tell us a little bit about when you started with ARG, what you were doing, and kind of your background and how the business impacted you right off the beginning.
Well, start out with, I was actually working two jobs back up to high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I graduated high school, went to college just because we were supposed to.
Right.
And got to a point where I had to make a decision as a career. I had to, pick a horse and ride it, so to speak. So I decided to do computers, finish school, and got a decent job for Alma at a bank working on computers.
Right.
And ended up picking up a second job at a grocery store, bagging groceries, running the registers, and I did that for about 5 years. And it got to the point where I was working just to pay my bills. And I had met Justin a few years prior through a mutual friend, and I had always noticed that he was buying things and going places that people in Alma just would only dream of, and it always caught my attention. So I got to the point where I just had enough, was tired of living paycheck to paycheck, so I reached out to Justin on Facebook, kind of told him my situation, and he was kind enough to have lunch with me, and ended up asking me if I ever thought about selling insurance. And I said, hell no. I didn't sell nothing if I tried.
Hey.
So he told me to ride with him, so I did. And I'll never forget, about 5-6 hours that evening, we went to the coast over in Brunswick, and it looked easy. And when I asked him how much I would have made, and he told me, I was like, no, you crazy, man. Ain't no way you made that much that quick. So I rode with him again, and he was for real. So he ended up getting my license, and nobody wanted me to do it. I made the mistake of asking all my coworkers at both jobs if I should do it. No, too much of a risk. You're leaving guaranteed, income and salary and wear and tear on your vehicle, blah, blah, blah. If it was that easy, everybody would do it. Just the normal stuff that you would hear when you're trying to better yourself.
Everybody that makes a jump into, commission-based sales where you take the cap off. It's just human nature. You got friends and family, and they don't do it. They're not trying to hurt us or hold us back. They're a lot of times trying to protect us. But one thing, and we've talked about it a million times, just because you don't have the courage to make the leap, doesn't mean I shouldn't have the courage. And I'm not beating up anybody that doesn't have the courage to do what we do. It takes a lot, and it's not for everybody. you know, we live in a day and age now where everybody calls herself an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody. I'd say I read something this morning that the depression rate's 3 times higher for entrepreneurs. All the ADHD is more apt to have ADHD. You about got to because you pull in so many directions. And so, you know, I don't want to say it takes a special kind of person, but maybe it does. You know, it's hard. But I was talking to somebody, you know, kind of based on what you said, you know, none of us, and I've said this a million times, none of us woke up in the 9th grade and said, you know, I want to be an insurance agent when I grow up. I mean, it's just something that happens most of the time. I was talking to the guy next door. You know, I did kind of like you. I worked construction, went to school at night to be an electrician. You know, now somebody calls me, want me to do some electrical work. I don't even remember, you know. I don't remember enough to burn your house down. That's about it. But it's almost like this path, it gives us opportunities. We don't necessarily choose it, but it chooses us. We get them opportunities, and we just have to have the faith and the belief in ourselves to make the jump. That's right. You know, it's like with you and Justin, you saw what was possible, what was available. You already were on the right track because you already had the work ethic. You was already working 2 jobs, so you knew you didn't have a choice. So you had what it took to do the work, and that's, you know, that's the thing that a lot of people have to understand. You know, and kind of getting back to what people were saying to you. You know, you said something real important that I hear a lot. We did recruiting calls on Friday. On Fridays we did recruiting calls. I did 2 recruiting calls back to back, one at 8:30, one at 9, and both people were interested in this career field, but they both asked me the same thing. Well, what's the guarantee pay right off the bat? Everybody wants a guarantee in life, and that's great. There's safety in that, but to guarantee that you're going to make a certain amount, it's to guarantee that you're going to make a certain amount. If it's $15 an hour, it's $15 an hour. I don't want a guarantee. I want an unlimited supply. That's right. I want to be able to make what I'm worth. People are always saying, well, I'm entitled to what I'm worth, and that's all you're entitled to in life is what you're worth. And so with a career like this and a job like this, you take the limits off. Yeah, there's fear. Yeah, there's danger. But at the same time, you don't have that minimum. You don't have that floor. You may go 2 weeks without making a dime, but you may make a month's salary or a year's salary in some people's case the next week or the next 2 weeks. But it's completely up to you, and it puts you in the driver's seat. But everybody's beginning is just like yours. Your mother and father, they love you. What's a mother want to do? Coddle you and protect you from the world. Well, you just was about to throw yourself out there to face rejection, to face no, door slammed in your face, phone hung up, which is all part of it. So it's human nature for them to want to coddle us, to protect us, to warn us against, you know, how bad the world is. Come stay in this safe environment. You know, work at this bank or whatever it was you were doing, you know, at the time. And I think you said you worked at the bank and at the grocery store stocking shelves. It's safe, but it ain't making a lot of money.
No, it's not.
So sometimes we got to enter the, you know, it's kind of like the old movie Top Gun, Highway to the Danger Zone. It ain't always fun. It's a little dangerous sometimes. We don't have those guarantees, but we have an unlimited ability, you know, an uncapped income, and we can make and get paid what we're worth.
And I think it's important to note, I mean, not to be redundant, but your family, I can't remember the exact quote. There's one I've got that I actually shared a few weeks ago on social media, but your friends and your family and the people closest to you is normally the worst people to go to for advice when it comes to opportunity. Because any kind of opportunity normally is scary. There's always going to be a certain percentage of uncertainty. You're almost better to go to a stranger, maybe that business person that you've admired from a distance, that you've watched for years, that, you know, best you can tell seems to be successful, have their life together, that's built something, that's done something. People that understand, you know, what the entrepreneurial leap is, what the jump is, and what it can do for you. And oftentimes we're going to your own parents or to your own close family or friends for advice on something that's risky. They're rarely going to be a champion of that and push you forward. There's normally always going to be some reluctance. So it's good to make sure you're getting advice from the right people. You wouldn't go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, if you got a heart issue going on. Okay, so if your parents are people that have maybe lived, nothing wrong with that, but lived more conservative, middle class lifestyles, maybe dad was a factory worker and mom was secretarial or what, that's really not the person that's going to cheer you on when you go say, by the way, I'm going to this career where you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but there's no guarantee for it. There's always going to be reluctance there. So just make sure you're going and getting the right counsel from people that are qualified to give you that counsel. Because even though your parents, might be great, loving people that have raised you wonderfully, that don't mean that they're qualified to give you financial advice or give you career advice. And so that's just real important. If you're listening to the podcast and you've maybe toyed or thought about moving into a new industry or our industry or what have you, and it's risky, just make sure you're going and talking to the right people.
And I'll give this, credit to like my dad. I mean, from the time I was an adult on, if I asked him for advice, which was a few times, he'd always say, son, you got to make your own way in life. I may not necessarily would take that road, but you got giftings and abilities that I never had. And I think you could do that, whereas I would never have the courage or necessarily the ability, but he always kind of pushed me and prodded me. And he was always very careful, and just like Justin said, there's nothing wrong with being a secretary or any of these things, but it's just not for, somebody's got to get out there and take the risk. It's like being a soldier ain't for everybody, but somebody's got to tote the machine gun. I mean, there's people that's got to do it. These jobs have got to be done. Somebody's got to sell the houses. Somebody's got to sell the cars. Somebody's got to sell insurance, and it does take a special kind of person with that courage. You had the hunger. You just needed to make some money. You needed an avenue to do it. But I got a friend of mine, and he says this. He says, I'm not going to go to a dentist with rotten teeth. I ain't going to do it. It don't make no sense. He said, and I ain't going to let a fat person train me, tell me how to work out and how to eat. Nothing. We love fat people, nothing against fat people. But what I'm saying is, you give me advice on what you need to give me advice. I'm not going to give you advice on certain things. People ask me for advice on this or that, and I ain't your man because I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But it's just human nature for people to protect us. So you're working at the bank, you're working at the grocery store, you see what Justin's doing, you see what other people's doing. You made the right move, because here's what most people do. They see somebody that's living better than them, and they despise that. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest mistake people make when it comes to money. They see somebody with money, they start despising that person, start talking about this or that person, whether it's me, whether it's Justin, whether it's you. And what you're telling the universe is you don't like people with money. So subconsciously you become someone who don't want money because you don't like people like that. And you didn't make that mistake. You saw that, you went for it. You said, how are you doing what you're doing? And we could get so far in life by finding successful people and just saying, hey, tell me how to do what you're doing. So you made the right move right off the bat.
Unfortunately, it took me about 5 months because I kept going back and forth.
Yeah, what's 5 months?
Once a week, I'd call him and say, man, I just don't know because this person said this. And if he didn't have patience, because he had a lot of patience with me, I don't know if I'd be here today. But I just woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be 5 years down the road and look back and be like, man, if I would have done that, where would I be now? Mm-hmm. So I just decided, go all in. If it don't work, at least I tried. I went down swinging. And my first week.
Well, your first day.
Yeah, first day.
In the first 6 hours of your first day, you made the equivalent in commission. You made the equivalent of 2.5 months. Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly. 2.5 months worth of previous.
I think that the first week was
Was it the first week?
I think the first day was about what I would have made in a month.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. In the first week,
Somewhere right around there.
3 months worth of income, and that's when the light went off, and it was just like the shark tasting blood for the first time. I just took off after that, and the same people who were telling me don't do it, about a year in, they were calling me asking me what are you doing? How are you doing this?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of ironic.
Well, that's always the case, and again, not taking anything from those people. I mean, it's just human nature to doubt and to fear.
Yeah,
I mean,
they all mean, they
mean
well, but I mean, you live in a small town. I mean, you're supposed to work for somebody making $20,000-$30,000 a year and be happy. I just wasn't happy.
Well, that's all you know. I mean, you just changing perspective. It's like, he and I has talked about it many times. There's times you got to get out of town, spend some money, go somewhere nice where people with money are. Even if it stretches you a little bit, it might stretch your wallet, it might stretch your pocket to do it. I've done it a lot of times just because, he was doing it, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to go hang out, and I'm going to have to pay to play. But you get around different types of people. And it may stretch your wallet a little bit, but it also stretches your imagination. It stretches your mind, and it allows you to see there's a whole nother world of people out there other than just these hometown, glory day bunch. I was just like you. I grew up in the same town you grew up in. I mean, to get a job with the REA, making, I worked for Pike, you worked for Pike, and that was it. I worked at the trailer plant, and nothing, taking nothing against it. We need that. But some of us, we see something and that someone else has, and we say, good for them. That's human, good for them. But some of us say, you know what, that could be good for me. And not just good for them, good for me. How do I get it? And I think your whole life is a journey of how. What's the next step? What's the next level? And how do I get in that? Now, so tell us this, because I know you most of your journey. Justin knows most of your journey. So you're into business. First year, qualified for, where was the first trip y'all went on?
Maui.
So Maui. Mm-hmm. Is that the one I went on with you?
Yeah, you went on that one.
So we was all in Maui. How long was you in before you had your medical problems? And tell us about that.
It actually, we went to Maui in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Went to Iceland that same year. We was home like 2 weeks, and then and went to Iceland with another carrier.
Yeah. Went to Maui, and that's when I started having like a sore throat.
Okay.
You want me to get into all?
Yeah. I think I think it'd be very, very encouraging for the listeners.
Well, went to Maui, which was phenomenal. First time I had ever been on a plane that far away from the house, but started having a sore throat, and with anything, figured it was a cold setting in, so I just, babied it. Well, it didn't go away, and I ended up going to the doctor, who referred me to a specialist, and they said, yeah, you got tonsillitis. Take this medicine, come back and see us in about a month. Went back, and it got worse, and they sent me to another specialist. And when I went to go see that specialist, and I actually went to go get my tonsils removed, and they took me back there, opened my mouth, and the doctor's mouth just dropped. And he called 2 other doctors in. They said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to biopsy it and see what happens. So fast forward 2 weeks, never forget it, I was working in Statesboro. I had just bought lunch. I was in some park eating, and the doctor called me and said that it was autopsy, came back.
Biopsy.
Yeah, biopsy.
Damn, we fast forwarded long way off.
It had come back positive. It had come back positive for stage 1 lymphoma. And I was like, okay, because I felt fine.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was something stuck in my throat. And she's like, it's very, very aggressive. You need to see an oncologist now. Like, well, what's an oncologist? I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
So I was fine until I called my parents, and of course that's when I lost it, because it for somebody who had never been sick, never stayed in a hospital, to get told, overnight, hey, you got cancer. I didn't know how to take it. So I go through the whole process, and it was 3 weeks worth of tests every single day, still working, get to the point of starting the chemo, and ended up having to have, I think it was 3 rounds of pretty intense chemo, and then 32 or 33 rounds of radiation. And my whole mindset through all that was, okay, it is what it is. I can either sit at the house and cry about it, or I can, deal with it the way I need to deal with it, have my moment every day, and then, focus on what you got to do to get done. Because it was treatable. It was caught early. Doing fine now. Everything's good. I can never get that type of cancer again. But during that whole process, and this is going to sound funny, but during that whole process, I think this business kept me from going crazy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Because I still had a structure to go by. Okay, I got to be in 2 hours away from the house every morning at 7 a.m. If I'm going to be over there, instead of driving all the way back and wasting half a day, why don't I just work in that area?
Yeah.
So I had let Justin know, just kind of shot from the hip, and through September all the way to January were actually some of my biggest months, and that's when I was going through the radiation and the chemo. And like I said, I think that's going through that whole process made me learn a lot and made me respect people who's had cancer and goes through that whole chemo process. 'Cause man, that's some rough stuff.
So just so everybody, everybody understands that's listening or watching, you got a guy gets diagnosed with stage 1 lymphoma with cancer that I still to this day I've never heard of a situation where somebody, not only did they continue to work and not go sit in a dark room and cry and feel sorry for themselves, not to say you didn't, I'm sure had your moments. Oh, yeah. I remember today, I don't know what town I was in, but I remember the house I had pulled up to, sitting in front of. Excuse me, everybody. I'm getting over some stuff here, but I remember the house I was sitting in front of when you called me upset, and let me know. You said, "Man, I'm scared. This is what they've told me," and it scared me to hear that, because to be honest with you, I had never personally known a person that was young, kind of a contemporary of mine, that had cancer, so. But just so y'all that are listening understands, I mean, Robbie's the perfect example. And the reason Robbie is anywhere that he's at in life, and he's attained any level that he has and's had the success that he's had, and where's, if you were watching the video, that expensive diamond-clad, what we call the Millionaires Club ring, $1 million producer, is because of his tenacity and his discipline and his work ethic. Because I don't know anybody to this day that not only did he continue to work through the whole process, but he made it work. I mean, where most people would have used that and said, well, I can't work because I'm getting chemo and I'm getting radiation and I'm sick from the chemo. And I remember talking to Robbie, and because I was baffled. And I remember one night me and my wife was at dinner at a local restaurant, and we called to check on Robbie, and he had just got done working and sick and throwing up, from some of the radiation in between stuff or the chemo. And I was just like, I told my wife, I said, I wouldn't be doing that. There's no way, And so there's a lot of people that go through a lot of things, but to this day still, for me, your tenacity and what you did through that, and I've never really heard you put it that way. I guess that probably did help you. It kept your mind where it needed to be at and thought about it from that angle. But not only did he continue to work during that time, but he led the company through that whole period of time, had some of his biggest months ever, and ended up being producer of the year that year. And I remember, us talking about that and giving you the award that year for top producer, Top Gun award. And, It's just, but that's what it takes. The whatever it takes mentality. I mean, we got agents that we'll bring on and recruit. I mean, it ain't a hard business, we like to say a lot of times, because it ain't like you putting shingles on a roof or, digging ditches or nothing. But sometimes mentally it is hard. And it's, I've seen a lot less, knock a lot of producers out of the way. They can't.
Absolutely.
They got, they turn in a zero for the week because the church had too many festivities they needed to attend. I mean, if you go into church festivities, if I'm saying that right, and can't even pay your bills, I mean, something's out of order.
And not only that, but that's and I don't know if it's human nature, but I just see it with so many people. If we got a lot of areas in our life, I mean, we're in sales, we're running businesses. We also got families. We also got kids. We also got, like Justin said, we got other, obligations, church, civic obligations, whatever, But so many people, with one area of their life is under attack, the whole house falls down. If one room is leaking, it's like they shut down the whole daggum house.
It's like I said, if you got one flat tire,
yeah.
Why you won't go slash the other three? But that's human nature. They go slash the other three.
I've seen people who it just gives an example I've seen over and over. I've seen people with marital trouble. Their marriage is falling apart, so their work starts slacking, or they quit working, or this or that happens. And because one area of their life, and it's a big area, and it's important, if anything, if I'm going to have something going wrong over here, I need something going right over here. Right. If my body's failing me, I got to make my mind stronger. And, I got to we still got bills. That's the thing. In our life, there's something constant, and that's called our obligation. If you own a house, if you own a car, unless you're fortunate enough to just be all cash and God bless you, good for you. But it's like clockwork every 30 days. The obligations are due. So why not get ourselves at least on that same, that same rotation where, we're as consistent as everything else in our life, I mean, you're the best case, probably the best example I've ever seen of anybody who's taken a bad situation and say, okay, this sucks, and this is fixing to be a fight. It's going to be a battle. And I mean, you kind of downplay it a little bit, I think, when you say, stage 1 lymphoma, it's still freaking cancer. It's still chemo. It's still radiation. It's still going from chemo to work, throwing up in clients' toilets and getting back out and writing the policy. I mean, I'm sure that's what it was like. And then going home, something that 9 out of 10 men wouldn't have been able to do, wouldn't have tried to do. Because, and I've said it a million times, you've heard me say it, life, if we don't want to work, life will give us some good excuses. But there's still excuses. And in life, the people that I look up to the most, and you being one of them, are people that had every excuse in the world to fail, but still succeeded. I mean, it's a testament, brother. I mean, it shows the fiber of who you are. Because not only, a lot of people would have said, well, look, I'm dealing with all this, and you kind of, and you tell me if I'm wrong. You can correct me on the camera. It won't bother me at all. You kind of got a chip on your shoulder. From the beginning, starting, this is where I'm from. This person said I couldn't do it. My previous employer kind of laughed at me and, said, well, kind of insinuated you would fail, whatever. And I think that chip stayed even after the diagnosis. I think even with all this bad, going on, I think you even more, had a drive to succeed.
When your employee, they called you back, right? Like a year later, trying to offer you more money, the same people that told you wouldn't make it.
Yeah, it might have been a year or so later. Basic conversation. They basically said, job's always open. If you want to come back, we'll give you the amount you were asking for before you left. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, well, I appreciate it, but I made that about 2 months.
Yeah. So I mean, if I remember correctly, I mean you did about $140,000 is what you earned year one with us.
A little, yeah, right around there, yeah.
And that was 7 years
in
ago.
Commission. So that was first year commission, $140,000, and I watched Robbie back when, and you have to understand our business, but back when our company model was we bought the leads for everyone, which to do that, to be able to afford to do that, a little lower comp situation than where we're at now. But I
think it was a lot.
Well,
Robbie said,
I watched Robbie start out. So when he started off, he was 65% commission, and to be able to work, I mean, there's, and this just proves that higher contracts don't always mean more money, and rarely do they mean more money because people don't go out and work. If they get a higher contract, they work even less. Robbie put $145,000 in his pocket. That's what he earned on a 65% contract year one. I mean, that's kicking ass and taking names. And when I started Robbie, even I was reminding him of this the other day, but I didn't make it easy on him. I mean, I started him with a list of names that wasn't even leads really for our industry, and he was doing that off of a list without an actual lead program, and and he would do that on Fridays. He'd be in the car with me Monday through Thursday, and we did that for 4 weeks, and then he continued to work them right out of the gate. But he had the mentality that he was going to prove folks wrong. Nothing was going to stop him, and and when they call you back and offer you $40,000 a year and you're making made 140, you're not. And one thing too, let me tell you something else about it. And Robbie's the perfect story, and I'm glad we finally having him on here because we had the other managers on back prior to Christmas, and we wasn't able to get schedules worked out on the days that we shot podcast. So thankfully we finally got him on here to tell his story. But this is it should be a great inspiration to a lot of you that listen and follow us, that's teetered on the edge of getting involved in our industry, because there's so many key poignant points here. But, one thing we always say is stop letting blind people proofread your vision, and the bottom line is, don't mean they're bad, or wrong, but, or I should say, yeah, they're wrong, but it doesn't mean their intentions are bad. But a lot of times you go into people that, in Robbie's story, we see where it starts off, it's the same thing, kind of crabs in a bucket, whether they mean to or not. People will hold you back. He overcomes that. Then he ends up not being in the industry very long at all, gets hit with a health crisis, let's just call it what it is, overcomes there and continues to thrive, takes and earns more money year one than most producers could ever dream to earn. It does it on a real entry-level contract. I mean, and when I think back, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but you even had to pay, it was like $5,000 to leave your other job. What was the deal with that? And you did that.
Yeah, I had signed a 5-year contract, like a non-compete contract with the bank, and I got a $5,000 sign-on bonus. And if I was to leave the bank within those first 5 years, I have to repay that sign-on bonus. Well, when I decided to leave, I talked to my boss, and he was like, well, don't do this. How are you going to pay this $5,000 back? I said, I have no idea. Give me 6 months. If I don't have it in 6 months, we'll figure something out. Well, I think it was my second month, I went in there, slid the check across the desk, and they asked me, now, is this going to bounce or is this good? And I just laughed and walked out.
Oh, Lord.
But, I mean, that right there would have killed it for 99.9% of people. They got to write a file on the money you had been making, and then you realize you got a big CEO, president of a bank, whatever it was, looking at you, putting pressure on you, saying, now, how the hell are you going to pay this? And you did it anyhow. And overcome. So there's so much overcoming in your story, and that's what I love about it, and which leads me to the point, but this is how people are. It got to a certain point, and I don't know how long you'd been working with us, but he was continuing to use his CPA in that small town where he lived there, and it got to the point that when he went to go get his taxes done, was it the first year or second year? Second year, he had made so much money that year, so obviously it was more than the $140,000 that he'd made year one. And so, but he made enough money, and I don't know how much he made that year, but it was probably 200 plus. But he made enough money that second year that when he went to go get his taxes done with his CPA, what CPA tell you?
He said, I got friends in the insurance business, and they don't pull this kind of income, so I really don't feel comfortable moving forward with this.
So his CPA insinuated that
Well, I know the CPA, and you was making more money than him. So it's all
Good people.
good people.
Real good people.
Good people, but limited minds.
That instituted this saying that I've had ever since then, that I tell agents now, go make so much money your CPA fires your ass. So.
But see, here's the thing about that. Good people, just small man. Tell you what he tell you. I know people in the insurance business, and listen, it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of the agents in the insurance business make 80% of the money, because the other 80%, they're not going to work when they got a sore throat, especially if it's lymphoma. They're not going to work when it's raining. That's what we used to say that around here with these guys. You want to make it rain, but you won't even work in the rain. It doesn't work like that. You got to have the drive, got to be willing to say, it's like the top 2%. I heard a quote with Kobe Bryant one time. I probably shared this before, but I keep saying the same thing over and over, but I like it, so I'll keep saying it. He said, everybody else wants to be in the top 1%. They want to be in that 1%, but I just want to be that one. I think so much better. That's why when you say, well, I'm a basketball player, that's general. That don't mean you're Kobe Bryant, And so to say, I mean, it's like we live in Valdosta. There's just so many real estate agents in this town. And I heard somebody the other day, they're in the real estate business, and that was what they said. They said, I got into this career field, but I just didn't realize how much competition that there really was out there. That absolutely has no bearing on your success. How much competition you got, how many agents they are, how many attorneys in the town, if you're an attorney, how many real estate agents. Because the people that's going to have the drive, the motivation, the wherewithal to make it happen, competition just don't matter. Because you got to get your mindset in to where you're living on a whole nother level, on a whole nother plane. You do things different. You say things different. You look different. Everything about you is different in a good way. And then finally, the pocketbook will catch up with it. It may take a while. I ain't saying you're going to not, deal with competition and all that, but eventually, if you think differently, it's the first level. If you think differently, eventually you're going to reap differently and have a different outcome. So competition doesn't matter. And for that guy to say, I know people in the insurance business, guys, I know plumbers knocking down $2-3 million a year. And I know plumbers that can't keep the lights on in their house. That's a crazy statement. I know people in this business who don't do that. No, because we trying to be the cream of the crop, the top of the top. We're trying to be at a level that most people's not going to be at. And so it don't matter, and if you're listening, we call this, the title of this podcast is Separation Nation. That's why we got people like Robbie, because Robbie, he's in the insurance industry like the rest of us, but it's a whole different level. Sometimes the same products, the same strategy, but it's a whole different level than what most people think of as an insurance agent or an insurance salesman, because we think differently, we act differently, we do things differently, and we produce differently.
But Robbie's went on to, I'll just say this because he probably wouldn't necessarily say this about himself, but he's consistently, led and been in the leaderboards with the carriers that we've represented over the years. Always been top producer with us. The majority of all the years he's been with us. Led some of the largest sales teams that we've had, and recruited and trained agents. And then 2018, out of about 7,000 agents with Aetna, was the top one. That producer of the year was the top producer in the whole.
It was in 2018. It's been that long.
Yeah. 2018 was the top producer, and of course you can go on our YouTube channel and you'll see some of the videos from conventions and all. There's a video of him winning that award, and that's the night we went out on the big mega yacht down there in Miami and John Cicada was on there with us singing and had a big time. So Robbie and I, we've at this point, you know, we've been all over the world together, traveled, and it's this business is a phenomenal business. I mean, what it can do and how it can change your life. To know where Robbie come from, and to see where all he's been and where it's taken him, and ultimately, in one way, shape, form, or fashion, this business even kind of helped align him with his wife. He just got married and just had a great wedding down at the Ritz-Carlton in Amelia Island. He's been married, what now, a month and a half?
I'm gonna get in trouble. Yeah,
Married
About
6
a month.
weeks.
6 weeks.
yeah.
And that's what you said when we.
Yeah.
Well, let's ask you this: we've established. I mean, you know, the mindset you had. I mean, you faced all type of adversity, but you know, and we'll wrap things up pretty soon. But I mean, what has this business taught you? I mean,
Oh man.
what has it taught you about yourself? I mean, think of that.
More so if you put your mind to it, really if your back's against the wall and you decide, okay, I'm going to do this, and you put all your chips in, you'd be surprised at what the outcome would be if you just keep going every single day, no matter how bad it is or how good it is. You just keep going. Every day is a new day. And in this business, I mean, as long as you keep going, you cannot fail. Like you say it all the time, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. That's very true.
That's any business, I think. It's just consistency. Just get out there and do it every day. Be consistent. I mean, you've been way above and beyond consistent. I mean, even fighting all the adversity you fought, and you've been, you know, successful on a consistent basis. What about training? You know, so you've learned consistency. It's taught you consistency. It's taught you that if you just show up, you can go after it. It works out. But how hard has it been? And this is something we all, I struggle with it. But trying to get other people to see that. How frustrating has that been for like a new agent, somebody coming on, or that's listening to their friends that they're going down the same road you're going down, and we just can't quite get them to figure it out.
I mean, I feel like I could talk to new people till I'm blue in the face. I mean, I'm a walking example of a proven concept. And if you can't look where I was at and where I am now, and you can't take what I'm telling you for face value, and I mean, I feel like that's a decision you have to face every morning, look in the mirror and face yourself. So, I mean, you have to essentially decide to, like Steve Harvey says, just jump off that cliff and just go and don't look back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decision, and I mean, you face it, Justin's faced it, I faced it, just trying to, so many people come in and out the doors that, you know.
But a lot of them, and I don't mean to interrupt.
No, please do.
A lot of them, they don't even get started good. If they have one bad day, they're done. They're terrified. They want no part of it. And then they go back, making minimum wage. And you got some people, they have 2 or 3 good weeks, and then they have one bad week. They're terrified and they leave. If you just stick with it and trust the process, it always works out.
It always goes back to mindset and mental strength. And ultimately, that's why, that 97% work for the 3%. I mean, it's a lot easier just to give up, quit, find an excuse, blame it on something other than the fact that you just didn't have the mental strength and the tenacity and the discipline to keep going and to make yourself push through and break through.
And something that always helped me, and I got this from Grant Cardone. He's a little stern with things. I don't agree with everything, but for the most part, I've learned a lot from him. And one thing that I take away from every speech he's ever did was, no matter how bad the situation, no matter how many doors get slammed in your face, how many times you get told no, just laugh.
Yeah.
Laugh it off. You have to make a negative situation positive somehow, because if you don't, your mind will make you go crazy in this business.
I think the ability to laugh at yourself is probably one of the greatest strengths you can have, because you don't take yourself so seriously. I mean, we sat with 3 people right here. We've all made mistakes that we each other know, You know, so Justin knows more of my mistakes than, you know, I want everybody to know about. But I mean, I'm just saying, I'd let him pick on me about it, and I'd laugh with him, and vice versa for the most part. And because we just don't take ourselves seriously, man. You got to be able to laugh. I seen a quote by Jay-Z yesterday. You might have shared it. Somebody might have shared it. I don't remember who shared it. But it basically, you know, somebody had called him broke. You know, he said, Jay's broke. We know he's a billionaire, you know. And Jake just, the person said, you know, so-and-so said you was broke. And he just looked down and said, he's funny. Didn't even respond. He just laughs at it because he doesn't really care. And then he had that quote, and he said, you know, the quote that Jay said was that somebody told him a long time ago not to argue with a fool because from a distance you can't tell which one's the fool, you know, who's who. But, you know, you if you can laugh at yourself, it's a whole lot easier to laugh at people that's talking about you. Yeah. Whether, you know, so, you know, I'm going to laugh at my mistakes. I'm going to laugh at what the enemy says. I'm going to laugh at what, you know, this one says or that one. When the person asks you, was your check going to bounce, you just kind of laughed and walked off. When you got that in life, can't nothing stop you. Cancer can't stop you. Your competition can't stop you. I mean, we've been through adversity in business and you know, people that's tried to sabotage us and hurt us. I just laugh, man. I mean, there's times I want to cry, but the laughing keeps me from crying. You know, I just have to, you know, I have to just train myself that way. And, you know, what's the Bible say? That laughter doeth good like medicine. You know, it's medicine. And so, I mean, your entire story, man, is, I don't want your story. Don't get me wrong, but I love your story. And, I mean, and it is encouraging. And, so let's end with this. Okay. So you came from where you came from, you know. You are where you are now, you know, doing good, just got married. I mean, what do you see out of the next 5-10 years for Robbie Hilton? I mean, what are your goals and where do you want to be? What do you want to accomplish?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. I would like to, gosh, I don't know how to answer that. I don't want to be in the same position I am now, just like I don't want to be, I'm not in the same position today as I was this time last year. So I want to keep growing, but I want to be able to grow income, friends, everything just on like a massive, massive scale. Me and my wife was talking about that the other day. We're actually in the process of making monthly goals, yearly goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals. And if you'd asked me this about a month from today, I could answer that question better. But, I mean, I just want to be on a massive level.
But the key thing with what you're saying there, and that's in the transit part of achievers, but a lot of times people look at us, you know, and everything's relative, but people might look at you. I have people, followers and stuff on social media sometimes, and they'll send you these long messages, how they, you know, they'd love to be where you're at, whatever, and you can't never let that stuff go to your head. But if you're a real achiever, it ain't gonna go to your head no how, because you wake up every day honestly dissatisfied with where you're currently at. What might be, you know, the top of the mountain for other folks, you know, you feel like you're just getting started, and so, and it really is for me. It's never enough. Nothing's ever enough. You ask me what my number is. My number's more, yeah. And I'll get there or die trying. And there's something when you're wired that way, nothing will stop you. Stuff that people throw. I mean, we've had some shady characters and greasy folks just in the past year, even, you know, do crooked shit and throw stuff our way, trying to sabotage what we're doing. And look here, you might get a blow or two in on us, but you ain't never gonna take us down. And having that ability, when you look at that combo, the ability to be driven, to always know that there's more. Because when you know, that's not a selfish thing, but you know, the higher you go, the more influence you can have and the more people's lives you can change, the more folks you can take with you. And the ability to be able to laugh off the haters, laugh off the no's, laugh off the bull crap. And thirdly, to me, this is the winning trilogy here. And it's the thing that ultimately got you where you're at, is to know your worth. You know that Alma, Georgia, nothing against Alma, but that just small thinking, small minded, small everything was not for you. You realize Robbie Hilton is worth more. I deserve more, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to give myself more. And when you know your worth and you believe you're worthy of it, you're worth a better life. You're worth the finer things. You're worth, that's in your destiny. When you believe that, that's the foundation from which everything else grows and manifests from.
Well, some people want to be where some people are trying to leave as hard as they can. And, and it's something to be said for, someone to look at your life and say, man, I'd love to have that life. And here you are sitting there frustrated because, my life's good, but it could be so much better. It's not a selfish mentality. It's just, I can't at the level I'm at now, and then we'll wrap things up with this, and I know we're going kind of long, but at the level I'm at now, and I know y'all feel the same way, I can't help any more people than I'm helping. I can't influence any more people than I'm influencing. I can't create jobs and structure and security anymore at this level. I got to get to another level where we can affect and influence more, because it ain't just about what we can do, us three, and it's about how many people, can benefit from where we want to go and where we want to be. And so, that's what we've always been about. That's what you've been about, Justin. Ever since we started in this business, every one of us, even at different times, how many lives can I affect? How many lives can I change? How many people I help? That's why it's so frustrating when you're trying to help people and they just don't get it. They just don't want it. Here you are working with, I'll say it again, radiation in the morning, closing deals in the afternoon, and you just can't get people to. We live in a world where people just don't want to work anymore, man. They're lazy. They want to do it. But there's enough people out there that's got drive, and we want to help those people and get that. So I commend you, man. Thanks for coming on today. Thanks for sharing, sharing your stories. It's definitely an inspiration to us all.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and reach out to Robbie if you're listening to this. Reach out to us, any social media forums. If this has inspired you today, send us a positive message about it. Be sure to subscribe, share this around, and ultimately, if this has, sparked an interest in you for our industry and what we do and how it can change your life, Robbie would be more than happy to guide you in that, as he does for tons of other folks. So reach out to us today. Till next time, we'll see you again here on Separation Nation.